Good morning. Good morning, one and all. I've forgotten my hat. And it's a new one, so I do need to put it up. Bear with me a second. There you go. How's that? Can everybody hear me? You can let me know, because for some reason my audio is coming through my main speakers rather than my headphones, which I don't fully understand. If anybody can let me know they can hear me, that would be very, very helpful. Just trying to figure out a few things here. I've been away for a week and it's all gone completely pear-shaped. I do apologise for that. I need a button for that. There we go. Dan reckons we're coming through loud and clear, so I'm going to lose those because I don't need those. It's going to be a bit of an interesting exercise when we come to play the videos, but we'll see how it all plays out. Buongiorno, come sta, ciao tutti, and all of the Italian things. Wow, what a trip. What a trip. I'm just going to show off. Obviously wearing a new Italian Caterpillar hat. And by the way, Caterpillar t-shirt as well. Yes. And one of my fellow travellers across Italy is in our midst, Dr. Yvonne Waterman, who is every bit as nice in person as she is online. I can tell you that for sure, because me and Yvonne, we're like that now. We hung out for a while. Morning, Yvonne. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Thanks indeed for your company, basically. We had some good old long chats, a proper chinwag. And there's a guy in our midst today, also, called Marcus Sommer. We'll be talking about Marcus a little bit later on, but he's here. And Marcus inspired today's morning monologue, so stick around and you might just get to learn something that could potentially save your life, basically. Stefan Edwards, good morning, says, enjoyed the EDA convention in Venice. I enjoyed the convention. I enjoyed the study tour a whole lot more. Fantastic event. Christopher, morning, good to see you back. Morning, gang. Morning, Fang, he actually says, and then he corrects himself and says, good morning, gang. I've no idea what's happening to my sound at this end, but it's happening okay at your end, so we're all good. So I tell you what, before because I really want to get into today's morning monologue today, because it's very, very important. Somebody called Anne Cherry has just joined us from LinkedIn. Morning, Anne. I don't know why you're here. I don't know who you are. I'm going to check you out while we're all quiet. But good morning and welcome. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Steve Williamson. Morning, all. Just getting on the plane now from Tromsø. What a great few days with some stunning machinery. Yes, our man Steve has been up in the Arctic North. And I'm sure he had a fantastic time. Ken Hatcher saying, nice hat. Thank you very much indeed. I don't know if you can see it. There is a bit of... Well, let me show you there. There's a bit of Italian flair going on with the hat as well. As far as I'm aware, there are 2, possibly 3 of these hats in the UK. And I've got 2 of them for now. And 30 de Smets, she says, good morning, Mark. First time for me, but I received a tip to join because of the, yes, we're talking about chromium 6. The hot topic was discussed by Marcus in Venice. Yeah. I'll tell you more when we get there, because it's probably 25 minutes away. But there were a bunch of presentations. So I did the trip across Italy, which I'll be telling you about in the fullness of time. Met some fantastic people, some of whom I knew, some of whom I didn't. Had a fantastic time. Finally got to meet Marco Lorini. But let's fast forward. We've gone all the way across from Milan, Bergamo, Parma, Bologna, and so on. We ended up in Venice for the convention. And the convention was a bunch of presentations from people like Priestley Demolition, and I won't bore you with the details. But each of the presentations was greeted with sort of rapturous applause. Oh, well done, job well done. What a fantastic project that was. Marcus Sommer's presentation basically stopped the audience in its tracks. And you'll find out more in, well, about 25 minutes. So keep watching. Dan reckons he's going to get the 3rd. I disappoint you, Dan, but you're not. But thank you very much indeed for the offer. And Anne Cherry's just said good morning as well. Good morning, Anne. I'm going to check you out in just a moment to find out exactly why you're here. But I'm glad you're here either way. So without further ado, let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road. Right, let me tell. Well, a couple of bits and pieces here. Gary Muirhead, no, not Gary Muirhead. Steve Williams just said, "Is Gary still speaking to you, Mark? With you spending some time with his crush, Marco Lorini?" He is. Yeah, I've brought Gary back a few bits and pieces from Lorini and the trip as well. But no, you know that expression, "Never meet your heroes." Ignore that. It's nonsense. Marco Lorini is every bit as nice and as, I was going to say, mad in a good way. There's a line from a song. I can't remember the name of the song, but some people see some people see a mousetrap. Marco Lorini sees free cheese and a challenge. He takes a slightly skewed vision of the world and goes off and chases it. I've got his business card here somewhere. I don't know if you'll be able to read this, but I'm going to try it. There you are. That's his business card. Can you see his job title? I don't know if you can. His job title: CEO and Dreamer. That's what it says. And that's exactly what he is, but an absolutely smashing fan. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, I've hung out with some just awesome people the entire time I was away. So, and I was going to say, it's kind of refreshed my love of all things demolition. I looking back, I have been a bit of a negative Nancy over the past few months. Not anything to do with me, not anything to do with it is to do with the wider industry. But I think every once in a while, you kind of need to hang out with some people that show you the positive side. And one of the things that I found with that trip across Italy was everybody was hanging out on a coach, over dinner, over breakfast, over lunch, and everybody got on like a house on fire, basically. Sharing information, sharing ideas and everything else. Absolutely awesome. Now, we do need to go back because Yvonne says, thirdly, to Smith, Marcus's presentation was groundbreaking. It was groundbreaking and show-stopping. Jim Turner says, I really want to meet Marco too. I think we have plenty in common. I will tell you more about this, but one of the things that really stood out for me when we're meeting Marco Lorini, we went to a bunch of factories and people walk you around and they're very proud of their metal presses and their lathes and their their cutting tools and everything else. Marco Lorini was largely dismissive of all of that. It was just because all they are to him is tools to realize his vision. That's what it's all about. Benjamin Redding says, what do you think of the new Setanta? Can you see why us at Robust Track are so excited to bring it to the UK? Yes, I can. What did I make of the Setanta? I'm going to reserve my final judgment for when one goes to work. In terms of what I saw, I mean, bearing in mind we were only, with the machine for maybe 10, 15 minutes. I saw the boom raised, I saw the boom put down, I saw the boom raised, and I saw the boom put down. I sat in the cab, I gave it a good walk around. In terms of aesthetics, it's beautiful. In terms of design, I think it's basically groundbreaking. I don't know if ever you get a chance to have a look at the photographs. We have got a film of this anyway. But the boom foot, if you imagine a high reach like that, the boom foot on the Setanta is back here. It almost looks like a mobile crane. So the base of the boom sits right at the back of the machine, which potentially game changer. My first feeling when I saw it, and I'll be absolutely honest, and I would say the same to Marco, it looked like it was based on a mobile crane rather than an excavator. But it's everything is there, everything's in its right place. It's Italian, so of course it looks bloody good. All I'm waiting to see now is to see one in action. He assures me he's got a couple going out the door. They're ready to rock and roll. That will be the ultimate proof. I mean, even down to the fact that when we saw it, it didn't even have a proper attachment on it. It had kind of test weights on it. But it looks awesome. I'm just hoping it performs as good as it looks. If it does, we have a new player in the high reach market. Blimey, where are we? We're 11 minutes in and I haven't even done the intro properly. So it is Monday, the 16th of June. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition, the Lord High Chancellor of live streaming, back from Italy. In today's show, Case demonstrates its autonomous wheel loader. Liebherr is in the pink. We're moving mountains with a big new Shantui dozer and 6 decades of backhoe loaders with JCB and JC Balls. Plus, and I've already kind of flagged this up, I am going to tell you this, in my morning monologue today, did we learn nothing from the asbestos catastrophe that is still killing people today? There is no mystery machine today. I'm still trying to figure out how to make that fair and competitive. I don't know. We'll come up with something. But in the meantime, let me quickly remind you of our question of the day. Let's get our friend Ben off the screen just very, very quickly. Question of the day looks like this. Yeah. Now, Gary Muirhead, who has just joined us. Good morning, Gary. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back, Mark. 10 a.m. Haven't been the same without the Breakfast Show. Yeah, do you know, it's, even though there was a time difference, I was an hour ahead of you guys. 11 o'clock in Italy, I was sat there thinking, should really be talking to the fellas right about now. But I'm back and firing on all cylinders. Speaking of Gary, our question of the day comes once again from Mr. Muirhead, our resident quizmaster. Although it could quite easily have come from me, as you're about to hear. Gary's question is this. What is your worst travel experience or flight experience? Now, I'm certain that his question was at least partly inspired by my journey home from Venice. My flight home was cancelled while I was sat in the departure lounge, literally waiting to board a plane that wasn't there. After about an hour, during which time the EasyJet representative was eating her dinner, she came to take me back through passport control into the main airport building. All the time we were walking, she was chatting away on her mobile phone, laughing, clearly a personal call, had no interest in me whatsoever. Anyway, we finally got back to the main part of the airport, and she basically led me to the exit and said, you need to find an alternative flight and a hotel for the night. You can use the EasyJet app to claim compensation. And with that, she walked off, and she walked off that quickly. She'd gone back through passport control, i.e. I couldn't get after her. And she did it all so quickly, I didn't even have time to ask her, what about my suitcase, which I loaded onto the conveyor belt about 3 hours ago? By this time, it's about 1:30 in the morning. My suitcase is missing. I'm an hour or more water taxi ride back to the main part of Venice, where all the hotels are. So I basically wandered about the airport for an hour before I found a guy to retrieve my case. Reunited with my luggage, decided my best bet was to bed down at the airport rather, for a few hours and then grab somebody from EasyJet the following day, which is precisely what I did. Only they couldn't get me on a flight until 3:15 the following afternoon. So as a result, I spent the best part of 19 hours in a pokey airport. I slept fleetingly on the floor. Deeply unpleasant experience. What I will say, though, didn't spoil the trip. Made for an unpleasant ending, but didn't spoil the trip one bit. Ken Hatcher on the same subject. When you turn up at the airport in Florida and they say your plane was cancelled 3 months ago. Wow. Now, I mean, my plane was incoming. It was on the board, and it was delayed, and it was delayed, and it was delayed, and then it was cancelled. And you're just completely helpless. I mean, particularly that time of night. Sometimes if you're cancelled in the morning, you think, well, hang around for a couple of hours. There'll be another one along in a minute. Not this time. Not this time at all. So yes, thank you for that, EasyJet. I shall be choosing my flight providers a little more carefully in the future, I believe. It is time to start the show. So let's crack on with a bit of this. And we're going to start today's show with a bit of autonomy, this time from Case and their autonomous wheel loader prototype. Is that the shape of things to come? That's what I'd like to know. Is that the shape of things to come? Are we heading for an autonomous future? Lots of people just joined us over on Instagram while that was all playing. I don't know why. My picture is frozen over on Instagram, but it seems to be playing because everybody seems to be commenting on it. Let's have a look. Ken Hatcher says they did sort out a flight literally 20 minutes later, that it was a rush to the plane. I had no such luck. I was told, yeah, we can get you on a flight in about 8 hours' time. And the problem with Venice, there are very few problems with Venice. It's beautiful. The problem with Venice is it's a series of islands. And the one where the airport is Marco Polo Hotel, Marco Polo Airport is, it's miles from everywhere. So in order to, if I wanted to, I could have got on a water taxi for about an hour, gone back to the main part of the island, sat around, had a pizza or something like that, then jumped back on one and gone back. But I couldn't see the point. So yes, let's crack on. What have we got next? Oh yeah, we're going pink in a moment with Liebherr after a bit of this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Yeah, Liebherr in the pink, R9800 in support of breast cancer awareness. Take a look. Great idea. Can't help thinking that was a lot of pink paint. R9800 is a big old beast of a machine to be putting pink paint on. Anywho, we're going to be... Oh, somebody just popped into the chat. Bear with me 1 second. This is on our question of the day. Bad travel experiences. A trip back from a wedding in Liverpool in a minibus. Don't normally suffer from travel sickness. I wasn't actually sick, but spent most of the journey with my head out the window. Actually, I've done a few ferry crossings like that, and I'm not a seasick person. Dan Cullen saying, love how they move kit in Australia. They do not mess about in Australia. I mean, I guess when you've got distances like they have over there, you've kind of got to do the job properly. But yeah, we're going to be looking at a brand new big Shantui dozer in just a moment after this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Yeah, on this one, I'm just going to let the picture speak for itself, basically. A big Shantui dozer. It's a beast, and it looks like this. Proper piece of kit there. And, we're going to be back in just a moment with 6 decades of 6 decades of backhoe loaders. It obviously features JCB, but it also features JC Balls. And JC Balls, I'm fairly sure, is it? I'm fairly sure it's Jim Turner that's big mates with the guys at JC Balls. Or is it Chris? I can't remember. One of the two, but stick around because they're coming up right after this. And Jim Turner says, it's Chris. It is Chris. Thank you very much indeed for that, Jim. I couldn't remember which one of you it was. I know you're both up in roughly that part of the world. I couldn't remember which one it was. So, yes, JCB and JC Balls, 6 decades of backhoe loaders. Here we go.
I'm Tom Balls from JC Balls and Sons. We started buying JCBs because my granddad's initials was James Christopher Balls. We own a lot of JCBs in our family business. Nearly every backhoe loader what JCB ever made. This one's the first one, the JCB 3, and we owned 3CXs, 4CXs. Then we used to own 3C Mark 2s, 3C Mark 3s. We own them right up to the latest one today, 3CX Pros. The backhoe loader is the best machine on the market for doing footings, grading, shoveling, forks, carrying pallets around. It's a good machine. And also, you can road it everywhere. You don't need any transport. That's why we keep buying backhoes now. We'd be lost without a backhoe loader. Well, today, it's like a childhood dream. I came here today and not stops smiling now. It's nice to see all these machines together. Well, it's like driving one of these. No heater, no radio, no air conditioning. There's no door. You have to jump out the back, jump back in. My granddad used to jump in and out about 50, 60 times a day during the 60s. We've been restoring backhoe loaders early 2000s. The only reason why we've restored them because we like to keep the old ones going, and it's nice to see them at shows.
I'm going to say a very quick good morning to my friends at Oil Quick Italy who have just joined us. Met up with them over in Venice as well. Good morning, fellas. How are you doing? Hope you're going well. Good to hear that the business is doing so well. Oil Quick starting to make some serious inroads in Italy, and all power to them, I say. What do we got here? That's not the right button. There we are. Dan says, nice old kit. Love them. Yeah, absolutely. Dan Cullen also says he learned on a JCB 3C. Still wish they had the red buckets. Just looks right, doesn't it? I used to be cross-hired to Balls a fair few years ago. Gave the crack, or had the crack, I guess, with Tom. If we're at the same event, Jim was a lovely fella, proper gentleman. I mean, obviously, I was aware of the JC Balls. I didn't realise it was James Christopher Balls. So I'm sure there was more reasons for buying the machines and sharing the initials. But good story. Anyway. I do want to get onto the morning monologue because it's an important one. It's a subject that apparently is being talked about, but possibly not being talked about in the right areas. And I'll explain more in just a moment. So that's about it for the main part of this morning's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into my morning monologue. If you can't stick around, please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. Hope to see you again very soon. I'll be back tomorrow, as usual. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I will return immediately after this. Now, I don't normally do an intro to these morning monologues, but I'm going to make an exception in this case. On Friday last week, I was sat in an auditorium in Venice. I know, nice work if you can get it. I was listening to presentation after presentation of demolition projects and methods. Each one of those presentations was greeted with rapturous applause. But there was one that was greeted basically with a stunned silence. And that presentation was by a man called Marcus Sommer, who is in the chat at the moment. And it was on the largely unspoken dangers of a substance called hexavalent chromium, or chromium-6 as it's better known. So when his presentation was over, I started to do some homework, and I too was stunned into silence. So today's morning monologue is inspired entirely by Marcus, who I believe, as I say, is in the chat. And I am going to press a button in just a second. In actual fact, let me do it right now. Yeah, let me do that in the hope that he can actually join us on the show. Well, we shall see. We'll see if the technology allows me to do that. But yeah, so anyway, I hope I've got my facts straight, because I have researched this partly at an airport while I was sleeping on the floor. So bear with me, but here we go. In the year 2000, a film starring Julia Roberts made a little-known contaminant a household name and a movie villain. Erin Brockovich told the story of a legal clerk who uncovered the poisoning of an entire California town and its water supply by a utility company using hexavalent chromium, or chromium-6. The film won plaudits and awards. The utility company paid out hundreds of millions of dollars. And the public recoiled at the idea that a deadly, cancer-causing chemical could sit invisibly in drinking water for years, undisclosed and unaddressed. And yet a generation later, chromium-6 is still with us, swirling in the air on demolition sites across the globe. Its danger hasn't changed, only the form of exposure has. And just like the residents of Hinckley in California, the workers breathing it in today often have no idea what's happening to them. In the mid-20th century, asbestos was praised as a wonder material, fireproof, durable, and seemingly essential. It wrapped our pipes, lined our buildings, and padded our ceilings. But it also lodged in our lungs, turned healthy cells malignant, and left behind a legacy of death, grief, and litigation that still reverberates through the construction and demolition industries to this day. We learned too late that what once protected us was quietly killing us. And a generation later, we may be repeating the same mistake. This time, the silent killer isn't asbestos, it's chromium-6, a compound just as invisible, just as insidious, and seemingly just as easy to ignore. Now, chromium-6 is a toxic form of the metal chromium, no great surprise, used widely in anti-corrosion paints, cement additives, stainless steel treatments, and industrial coatings. It's found in countless structures built over the past century: bridges, ship hulls, refinery towers, residential buildings alike. And when these structures are demolished, chromium-6 can be released into the air as a fine dust or toxic fumes, particularly when materials are cut, crushed, or pulverized. To the naked eye, it looks like any other demolition dust. But when it's inhaled, it's a potent carcinogen. The International Agency for Research on Cancer classifies chromium-6 as a Group 1 carcinogen. Exposure is linked to lung cancer, nasal and sinus cancers, kidney and liver damage, and severe skin conditions, including ulceration and allergic dermatitis. And the worst part? Exactly the same as asbestos exposure, it can take years, even decades, for symptoms to emerge, by which time the damage is often irreversible. The parallels with asbestos are hard to ignore. Like asbestos, the dangers of chromium-6 were documented early. Scientific studies warned us of its toxicity back in the 1950s. And as with asbestos, those early warning signs were met with obfuscation, denial, and a general unwillingness to confront the cost of an industrial progress. In the case of asbestos, the human toll became undeniable by the 1980s, leading to widespread bans and regulation, but not before hundreds of thousands had already been exposed. Many workers who were simply doing their jobs found themselves diagnosed with mesothelioma, a disease with no cure and only one known cause: asbestos. And the warning signs are flashing again. But are we paying attention? The longer we delay, the more people are needlessly exposed. And just like with asbestos, the full consequences may not appear until decades later. when lung cancers begin to cluster, when young workers age into patients, when families start asking why no one warned them. And by then, the cost will be measured in lives, lawsuits, and public health crises. We're standing at the same crossroads that we faced with asbestos. The science is very clear, the risk is real, and the moral question is simple. Will we protect workers now or mourn them later? The story of asbestos is one of tragedy compounded by inaction. We ignored early warnings, suppressed evidence, and told ourselves it wasn't urgent, until it was. And today we find ourselves facing exactly the same kind of danger. Chromium-6 is already in the air, already in the dust, already in workers' lungs. But has anyone told you about it? Now, I'm hoping I've got my facts straight, because lurking in our green room is the guy that inspired that. Morning, Marcus.
Morning, Mark. Thank you.
Hey, very, very good of you to join us. I really appreciate you being here, and I love the headset. Did I get my facts straight, first of all?
Yeah, thank you for the good explanation, and thank you for sharing your experiences from Venice. For me, it was also a big, interesting trip, and I was very nervous before my presentation. But later, I said to myself, it was a correct decision to make it loud, because as I just said in the presentation, I'm a little bit the black sheep in the industry, talking about the risks, talking about the consequences, talking about the effects to our body, to the workers. And whenever I see workers in short trousers, in t-shirts, working with insulation, standing in the middle of the dust, I feel so uncomfortable, because I had it with my father. He never touched asbestos, but he died of asbestos because he was only working in a room with asbestos fibers. And now, sorry, we have the same.
So just to be clear, let's go back to the very beginning here. Chromium-6, how does it get into your body? Is it purely through inhaling it, or can it go through your skin? What's the deal there?
We have a massive impact because chromium-6 is a fine dust, so we can inhale it, but we can also get it through our skin. And chromium-6 is acting like a Trojan horse, so to speak, because our body thinks that it's a sulfate or a phosphate. So the doors are open to get chromium-6 in, and then something happens. And maybe, I think nobody knows it exactly. The real killer is chromium-3, because chromium-3 is reduced. It's a reduced result of the inner body chromium-6 attack. And then chromium-3 is attacking our DNA cells. And the next problem is that nobody will find chromium-3 in your blood or in your body if you have cancer. The doctors will say you are the unlucky one. No one will have an explanation for it.
I think you described chromium-3 as kind of a Trojan horse that hides within chromium-6. Did I remember that correctly?
Yes, that's correct. So if chromium-6 goes into our body tries to reduce it, because chromium-3 is a less harmful chromium compound. But during the process, some bad things are happening, and they are destroying our cells. We have oxidative stress inside our body. And the last effect, unfortunately, is the DNA attack of chromium, of the reduced chromium-6. So chromium-3 is attacking our DNA cells. And lung cancer, kidney cancer, abnormalities, and so on. There are a lot of illnesses, but not linked with chromium-6 exposure. Inhaling or dermal, and we should not forget that chromium-6 is also very, very harmful to the environment.
I'm going to go over to the chat. First of all, this one from our friend Peter McKenna. Morning, Peter. The pond we were filling in the northeast when I first passed my dozer test was a chromium pond. I wish I'd known that. And I think that highlights a problem. I mean, up until you started speaking, Marcus, I'd literally never heard of the dangers of chromium-6. Not once had I heard that. I hear about the dangers and the fallout from asbestos all the time. It's a constant source of conversation. But chromium-6 seems to be tucked away in the background. Why is that?
Chromium-6 is more or less an unknown substance, because every chromium-6 compound is artificially formed. So it is a chain reaction between, I said it in my presentation, what if an ingredient of milk as calcium or an ingredient of salt, sodium, comes into contact with chromium under higher temperatures and form something very dangerous. So it's a chemical chain reaction. And all the products we are using in industry also to insulate our building machines. So every building machine with an engine and an existing insulation has a potential to create chromium-6 around the machine. And the lectest result is the formation of a so-called chromate, and this could be calcium chromate or sodium chromate, and sodium chromate even is a substance of very high concern. So take care if you have to touch insulated areas, and the industry is of course denying it. We have the same situation we had before with asbestos insulation material. The industry will fight till the end and say, no, it's not our material, it's a coincidence or something like this, but we are really on a high risk.
I'm going to come back to that point in just a moment, but Jim Turner just said it's a massive danger to fitters and welders too. Yes, it absolutely is. Got a couple of comments here from Ferdy, who says, we currently perform around 1,500 chromium-6 analyses with our patented technique every month. From a data set of 5,000 analyses, we find chromium-6 compounds in 42% of applied paint and coating systems, buildings, bridges, sluices, industry, and so on. We even find it on wooden windowsills of normal housing. And he goes on to say, and then Marcus touched a far bigger problem, the formation of these highly carcinogenic chromium-6 compounds in technical insulation. These compounds aren't in paint, but as loose dust, which kind of throws up the other question. Certainly here in the UK, and I'm sure this is fairly widespread, we're taught very early on in the demolition industry specifically how to identify asbestos, what the various forms of asbestos look like. How do you identify the presence of the substance that you're talking about here?
To identify chromium-6 in dust, the first sign is a yellowish dust, but not always. It could be, the fibers, if you are uninstalling a former insulated part. We have a lot of fibers there. All the people think that it is normal fiber dust, but inside the dust there is a high content of chromium-6. And what Ferdy wrote, this is a key fact. To identify it, you need a testing. There are simple testing, so-called QIP test, swab tests, but there is a high rate of false negative because the dusts are covering the real chromium-6 load, so you need a better form of analyzing it. And Ferdy's company also developed a mobile lab. We have this mobile lab when we are uninstalling old installations. Then we take a wipe sample or a material sample. We cook them, and later we have a clear result. And believe me, the dust on the floor, the dust in the machine room, even, and this is no joke, some managers of power plants, they tested their office chairs and also the dust in their offices. The dust is contaminated with chromium-6, and we bring it home under our shoes. As we brought home asbestos fibers into the families, so many wives of asbestos workers died because they were only washing the clothes of their husbands, and it will be repeated.
Sorry, press the wrong button. Is one of the issues here with the testing a cost? Is the cost of testing prohibitive? I mean, we're in a situation now where we have to test for asbestos. We have to carry out asbestos surveys. Should we now be carrying out chromium-6 surveys as well?
In my opinion, every worker having contact with insulated places, on engines, in power plants, should have, at first, quick tests. This should be a tool of every worker, like a hammer or a screwdriver. And whenever the test turns into purple, the positive rate is more than 99%. But take care, the false negative rate is also more than 50%. But if it turns purple, stop working. You need a fully PPE and inform your safety engineers because dismantling old insulation is not only an inhalative risk for the workers, it's also a big damage to the environment.
You spoke very eloquently at the EDA summit on Friday of last week. Obviously, you're trying to get the message across to the demolition industry across Europe. What is your hope? What would you like to achieve by raising the warning flag on this?
The main goal, the main message is let's accept the risk, and let's remember one sentence: chemistry doesn't lie. So it's a chemical proven process happening in the background. Chromium-6 is around us, and let's not deny it, and let's not say the little bit of powder. And if here is someone who ever heard the message that yellowish powder under the insulation is sulfur, that this is a false information. And please don't believe what the industry is telling you. If you allow, we also have, wait a second, here we have the Global Asbestos Forum magazine from Dr. Yvonne Waterman. I think she is also in the chat. And here is a letter of the industry. It's with asbestos. And let me tell you one sentence. My answer to the problem is, if you have enjoyed a good life while working with asbestos products, why not die from it? This was the reaction of the asbestos producing industry. And now, not in this clear form, you hear the same, sorry for the word, the same bullshit from the insulation industry, that chromate is creating independent from the insulation material and so on. Let's accept chemistry and let's substitute the risk that history will not repeat itself.
Oh, sorry, press the wrong button again. Peter McKenna's just said that's shocking. Dan Cullen saying this is something that needs to be reported. It also says as deadly as asbestos. Marcus, I'm going to let you get back to your day job because I know you've got much more important work to do than sat here speaking to me. But where can people find out more? I mean, obviously, people can see your name on the screen there. I contacted Marcus via LinkedIn, so you can find him there. Do you have a particular website that people can go to that we can point them out for more information?
Yes, there is a website, and there's also a so-called compendium. Please Google Chromate experts, and we have a website in German, in Netherlands, and also in English. Google my name and Chromium 6, or simply Google Chromate experts, and you will find the site.
Fantastic. Peter McKenna has just said, thanks, Marcus.
My pleasure.
Dan Cullen says, this is a very interesting and show facts that people demolish these buildings, no actual concern over their workers' lives. Very true. And Dr. Yvonne Waterman, my new best friend, Chromium 6 will become a huge liability issue for employers and insurers. When you consider they've been sitting on their backsides for half a century, you wonder what it will take to force them into preventive action and saving lives. It's a good point. And I know one of the issues that we've had with other forms of demolition-related illnesses and diseases in the past is unless you've been employed by the same company for the last 10, 15, 20, 30 years, there's always that opportunity to say, well, you didn't get that while you were here. We've had the same with asbestos. We've had exactly the same with hand-arm vibration. It's a challenge with this one as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it will be more than a challenge because there are new steps in the future. So Chromium 6 compounds will be banned more and more. We have still a short time window to react. But I think in a year or maximum in 2 years, some Chromium 6 compounds will be completely banned. And then we will have the same situation as we would find an asbestos cord or an old asbestos material. And then we have to work under quarantine. And if this will happen, we will have really costs. I think we are talking about billions.
Well, that should certainly get the industry's attention. The problem is, and I don't know if we've actually reached this point. I remember somebody referring to me as peak asbestos. Obviously, we know when the material was banned, but it's still present in buildings. Exactly the same for Chromium 6. Even if we banned it completely tomorrow, we've got a legacy of, I don't know how many years, decades of buildings that will ultimately fall into the hands of demolition contractors. So that chromium problem will remain for quite some time, won't it?
Yes, you are right. So we just internal, we say it's asbestos 2.0. And we will also meet asbestos and Chromium 6 because last year in Brussels, during the asbestos forum conferences, I found an old book about asbestos, and I saw the chemical ingredients of asbestos, and it was all asbestos. Some asbestos materials are also containing calcium and sodium as well. So there could be even a cross reaction that we have asbestos fibers, but also Chromium 6 containing dust. And this will be the Armageddon for the industry. So let's act now. There are still substitutes available, but let's protect our lives. Let's protect our colleagues and workers. Don't go with a T-shirt into an engine room. Please don't do it.
Marcus, I was going to say I've enjoyed the conversation. I found the conversation absolutely terrifying, to be perfectly honest with you. But thank you so much for giving up your time today. I really appreciate that. We'll put this recording out, and obviously we'll add links to your website and to you personally as well And if there's anything we could do, and I'm saying this to you, I'm saying this to Ferdy, to Yvonne as well, if there's anything we can do to help you get the word out, please just let us know. We'll shout it from the rooftops, because this is an important issue and people need to be aware.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for being in your show, and enjoy. And if there are questions, contact me, contact Mark or Yvonne, whoever, and let's connect ourselves.
Just before you go, I'm just going to say this one quickly. Lloyd Hope says, well said, Marcus. And Peter McKenna has just said, chromium 6 is used in the production of and use of stainless steel. Yeah, it is, absolutely is. And other chromium alloys in pigments and paint and pottery. Yeah, it is. I'm fairly sure it was Yvonne told me that it's actually used in things like road markings as well, yellow road markings. It's present there. Those are being ground up all the time. So obviously we're talking here specifically about demolition, but it goes way, way wider than that. So be aware, people.
Yes, there's only one thing. If we are using it, we will also control it. It is not forbidden to use chromium 6 compound under biggest safety assessment and risk assessment, but the chromium 6 dust formed by insulation material is unknown and uncontrollable. This is a big difference. We can use a chromium 6 for some work, but only under control. In the demolition industry or in the insulation industry, it is not controlled, and that's a big difference.
Fantastic. Let's have a look. Ferdy's just said, thanks, Mark, and thank you, Marcus. Yep, thank you, Marcus, indeed. Peter McKenna finishing off, I think, saying it's not just people in construction that will be affected. Dust knows no limits. Dust has a nasty habit of migrating. So, no, it's not just people involved in demolition and construction. Marcus, you get back to your day job. Keep up your good work, sir. Keep spreading the word. Thank you very much indeed for giving up your time. And I shall speak to you again very, very soon. Right. Yeah, I was going to apologise for ending on a serious note, but it is a serious note. That's what it is. I think we're all very, very aware of the dangers of asbestos. You know, we're constantly reminded. We all go through asbestos awareness training. I've done it a long time ago, but I've done it. I know what asbestos looks like, and I know what to avoid. This one, not quite so straightforward, because it's dust. It's not necessarily fibers that you can see. It is dust, as Marcus said. If it is yellowish dust, beware. But I think ultimately this doesn't come down to individual workers. This can come down to the industry. We need to start doing preliminary testing of buildings before we demolish them, and not just testing for asbestos, but testing for other harmful materials as well. And that would certainly be one of them, chromium 6. If you've seen the film Erin Brockovich, I'm sure you're aware of exactly what the situation is in Hinckley in California. It was a multi-million pound payout because there was chromium 6 in the water there and was causing some very, very severe health issues in California. That's something else now to think of. And what and where? Yeah. I mean, as I say, as individual workers, we shouldn't have to worry about it. You know, you would like to think that our lords and masters in the industry are actually going in testing for the presence of these things. But, you know, we're all still aware of the fact that there are surprise findings of asbestos. You know, asbestos surveys have been carried out, and you open a door or open a roof portal, and there laying out in front of you is a bunch of asbestos covered in dust. Not great. So, people, please be aware. Peter says exposure to chromium may also occur by inhaling cigarette smoke. I didn't know that. As I say, this is literally how it worked, and I will sign off in a second because I don't want to keep you all. I listened to Marcus speaking on Friday afternoon. I packed my bags, jumped on a water taxi, got back to the airport. That's where I got stranded. And while I was stranded, his words were still playing in my head. So I literally sat there on my laptop, did a bit of research, and the more I read about it, the more horrifying it was. I'm aware of what asbestos is. The industry is aware of what asbestos is. I don't think we do a particularly good job of protecting workers from asbestos, but we're not doing a job to protect them from chromium at all. We're not doing that at all, and it needs to change. I would suggest, if anybody from the Institute of Demolition Engineers is listening, I would strongly suggest that you invite Marcus Summit or somebody like him to actually get over to here, here in the UK, at your seminar in September, I think it is, because this is a subject that needs further discussion. I mean, even to the point. I mean, we've had Marcus on. Ferdy is still in the chat, as far as I can tell, and Yvonne Waterman is here as well. I even wonder if it might be worth doing like a dedicated chromate or chromium podcast or live stream one evening. If anybody would like to do that, if anybody would like to watch that, or if you want to take part, please let me know, and we will do our very best to organise this. I think this is one of those stories that's going to keep going. I don't think this is going to go away, and my concern is, well, it's hard to, according to Marcus, it's hard to identify cancers that have been caused by chromium-6 or chromium-3 that's kind of hidden within it. We are going to see deaths as a result of exposure to this. Is that when we as an industry start to take note? Do we actually have to stand by and wait for people to die before we actually say, yeah, we probably need to do something about that? Too late, in my opinion. And Dr. Yvonne Waterman says, I'm happy to assist you, Mark, in any such efforts. I knew you would be. Ferdy says, sure, I'm up for it. And Lloyd hopes, I don't know, Lloyd. Lloyd, I'm going to look you up in a second, but thank you for being here. I'm assuming you are allied to the whole chromium debate. If you are, I'd love to get you on. Listen, I'd be more than happy to just open the airwaves and let you guys talk about it, because my research was done in about 45 minutes, sat on the floor of an airport. It's not what you'd call conclusive, I have to say, but you guys live and breathe this, and I use that term advisedly. So if you would like, I mean, Yvonne, we all know what an absolute megastar you are. If you would like to use our platform and even act as the host, I can make that happen. I'll just sit in the background and press the buttons, or I'll host it, and you'll just have to forgive me for not knowing as much as I should. Dan Cullen saying, really interested to hear more from these professionals on this. And Yvonne says, we're seeing such deaths now, just not recognising the origin of it. So the deaths have already started. So yes, I tell you what, when I get off here and when I've done when I finish unpacking my bags from Italy, when I finish putting a few bits and pieces away, and I finish chopping up today's show, I will drop a line to all of the people that have taken part today, Ferdy, Lloyd, Marcus, Yvonne, and see if we can get a date in the diary for doing an evening show on precisely this subject. Until then, everybody, thank you very much indeed for your time. Thank you for putting up with my absence over the past 10 days. I'll be back tomorrow with more of the same, hopefully not chromium-6, although if there's more to be said on it, I'm more than happy to do it. But yes, I'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. as usual. Until then, everybody, have a fine and splendid day, and thank you for your company. See you soon.